Hello, YouTube. Welcome to day 3 of the NGB 2016 Game of the Year Awards. Ooh. Day 3. Day 3. We're moving on very quickly through these things. Today we're going to be talking about the games that didn't quite make the cut. So they didn't make it to the top 10 list. So maybe because not many people played them, or the people that did play them and nominated them are fools. And they're actually not as good as they probably should be.
Nah, probably not, to be honest. Yeah. Quite a few I didn't play, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been
a bit. Yeah.
It's not easy as you get older, is it?
Well, for you, maybe you're the oldest.
Here's the games that didn't make the cut.
I'm joined by Gary.
How's it going, mate?
I'm all good, and I'm also joined by Andy.
Hello there.
And today we're going to talk about the best of the rest. So these are games that did quite well in our voting, but didn't quite get enough votes to hit the top spot. So these aren't in our top 10, but that's essentially because of the way we voted for them. So what we did was everybody came up with a top 10, and they essentially went through and said, right, this is my top 10, and we assigned the points based on the positioning. So if a game's not made the top 10, it's mainly probably because not enough people in the team have played it. So there is a way that we could do it without it, but it would essentially mean that we all sit and argue amongst ourselves for however long.
We don't want to do that anyway.
Yeah, there is that. But we kind of said that we wanted to essentially do it as a democracy, and despite the fact that 2016 has proven that democracy doesn't work, but
politics.
Satire. Anyway, right. So one of the starting games that I'm going to throw in there as one that didn't quite make it into the top 10 was The Last Guardian. Now, obviously, this is quite a late release in the year.
It is, yeah.
I played The Last Guardian. I think at the moment I'm still the only person on the team that's actually played the game. And personally, I love it. I think it's great. I think it's, there are issues with it. There are issues with the controls. There's issues with Trico's AI. But all in all, I think it's a very good game, and it continues that lineage of The Last Guardian. Well, not Last Guardian. It is The Last Guardian. It continues that lineage of Eco and Shadow of the Colossus, and it kind of pushes it somewhere new whilst also keeping that same aesthetic. And yeah, it's a very, very good game, and I think the fact that it's taken so long to come out is one where it's been. I don't know. I think a lot of people were expecting a hell of a lot more from it, but overall, I think it was. I think it's well worth playing and picking up if you get a chance.
So no Duke Nukem Forever.
No, absolutely not. It's way better than that. Another one that didn't quite make the cut that Gary, I think, featured quite high up on your list was Forza Horizon 3.
Yes, I'm surprised it didn't, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's one of those games where I played it and I reviewed it, and I just after I'd reviewed it, I didn't find the time to go back to it enough. And I think that was probably what it was. And again, this is one where I don't think that many people played it. But but by all means, mate, wax lyrical about Forza for a bit, because it's a fantastic game.
Oh, it's absolutely incredible. I still think that it is the best racing game you can buy at the moment. I played it like tons. Obviously, you reviewed it for the site, but I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved the location. I know we've spoken about this before. And just the everything that's sort of around in the world. There's just so much to do. And they've also just released Blizzard Mountain DLC, which I'm going to pick up this weekend. And apparently that's amazing as well. So, I can't say enough about it really, because Playground, they've been doing it for years, the Horizon games, and they seem to just get better and better every time. And Forza Horizon 3 for me is amazing. If you own an Xbox One, I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of the top sellers for Christmas. I'm pretty sure of that. It's one of those games that I think a lot of people will ask for, and rightly so, because it is stunning. It's brilliant.
It seems like it's got legs as well.
Definitely, yeah. And this new DLC they're adding is like a complete new map. So there is a lot. Obviously, it's not as big as the sort of core map within Forza Horizon 3, but it's pretty big from what I can see.
It's not seamless though, is it? You actually have to physically go to the new location.
Yeah,
it's not like Big Surf in Burnout Paradise where you
Blizzard Mountain is like got sort of like a fast travel option where you go to it sort of thing. But yeah, it's from what I've seen, there's a lot to do with inside it. I believe I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on this. I believe it's about £20 ish for the DLC.
Yeah, it's cheap. I think it's cheaper if you've got the Ultimate Edition, or is it free if you've got? I can't remember, but it's
obviously
there's a way.
Season Pass.
There's a way that it reduces the price if you bought one of the more premium editions.
But that game is amazing, Forza Horizon 3, and I can't wait to sort of dive into Blizzard Mountain because it looks stunning. Bit of a weird one that there's snow in Australia, but that's playground for you. They're a bit quirky in that sort of regard, but it looks great.
I thought it was actually meant to be over the sea in New Zealand, wasn't it, or something like that? Blizzard Mountain.
I'm not entirely sure.
Either way, that sort of area, it's not really that conducive to snow, is it?
I've seen The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but they can do a lot with CG. So one that didn't quite make the cut from quite high up on your list, Andy, was Dark Souls 3.
Dark Souls 3. I'm quite surprised I didn't make the cut because there was a lot of people that were very vocal about how much they liked it when it came out, and then it didn't feature. Yeah,
it's something that there was only 2 votes for it from the crew.
Really?
But I know you really enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not a Dark Souls fan. I think I've proven that in the past.
Yeah, I think it's one of those series that you either like or you don't like, and I mean, I think I've said previously that it's literally taken me till this year to get Dark Souls and to actually really appreciate what it's trying to do as a game series.
Yeah.
I kind of said initially earlier on in the year, because I kind of flip-flopped around this. I wanted to do Dark Souls 3 because I wanted to understand the series, and then I didn't. I kind of bailed on it for a bit and said, I don't really know as I really want to do this. But I then got into Bloodborne quite big time, and suddenly something clicked in that game, and I realised exactly what I was doing wrong in the Dark Souls games, and I've been back and played the entirety of that series and Bloodborne within the first half of this year. Good game series for 2016. Kind of set the tone, that one, really, didn't it? But there you go. It's
fair enough.
It is a good game series. It's and Dark Souls 3 is it was really good. I'm still going back and playing it now. I'm still sort of exploring different character builds and different ways of doing things. And there's still tons of stuff that I didn't find that I'm still going back and finding. It's just so good. And the DLC again has come out recently for that, the Ashes of Ariandel, and that's added quite a substantial new area to the game. And a few new enemy types, some new ways to play, and it's just again, it's enhanced the experience in the same way that I guess Blizzard Mountain has done for Forza 3. It's given you more to do in a game where you sort of think, is there really going to be that much more to do after you've kind of finished the main quest, other than sort of going back and replaying it? But it's good, and I liked it.
Fair enough. I mean, again, we've got a few games, as I say, that people rated pretty highly that didn't quite make the cut. One of the ones that I was a little bit surprised actually for featuring quite so high in Deb's list was Plants vs Zombies: Garden Warfare 2. Now I know when the game came out, she really enjoyed it, and I think she actually gave it quite a high rating on the site. And I think it was a surprise one because it was one of those ones where there was a very obvious first-person shooter sort of history from EA obviously publishing them. But the first game definitely tapped into that little market where they it was for people who kind of wanted to, I don't know, maybe give their kids a first-person shooter that didn't want necessarily to have the Call of Duties or anything like that. So, I mean, obviously, Deb said in here that she was a huge fan of the original game. Someone that's not so great with shooters, this series makes the experience so much fun and is friendly enough for all ages to enjoy, which I think, is kind of what we said there. And I think she said here that developers really listen to the feedback and act on it, and for that they've really got a lot of respect from the community. Multiplayer modes were bigger, and there was a campaign in this one, something which will come on with another game a bit later on. The world was much more free and immersive. The new character classes added a great dynamic to the combat, and it gave the DLC was all completely free. Again, something we'll come back to shortly. And it's for these reasons that Deb's going to be a fan of that series for a while. And whilst I've not played it myself, I've seen a lot of people say, this is great. Like the PvZ mechanics and things like that slot back into the game, and they just kind of they play really well in terms of first-person shooter. But as well as that, it's kind of a family-friendly game as well. So
it does look a lot of fun, and it's got offline split screen as well.
Yes.
I mean, I know, and they don't listen to this podcast for good reasons, so I can say this. Our kids are actually getting it for Christmas. So we'll be having some of that going on in our house within the next few days. So, yeah, it certainly caught my interest. I'm not a huge fan of Plants vs. Zombies. It's too simplistic for my liking, but it's the Garden Warfare stuff, it really does look like a lot of fun. So,
fair enough.
I played the original one. I believe I played it on the Xbox One. I think I got it for free. I don't know if it was on Games for Gold or I can't remember.
It was in EA Access, wasn't it?
No, I think during one of the conferences, was it? I think it was when EA Access launched. It might have been, but it was some sort of anniversary deal where they, I think Sony gave it away for free to PS4.
That's
users.
what it was then. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really definitely made for. Yeah, it was definitely made free at one point, and it's a fun little game.
Yeah.
Right. So moving through the list, the next one. I was quite surprised at this one actually making a list at all, because it's one that we've definitely not heard of. Well, I've heard of it, but we've not really seen much of it in terms of like the critical side of it. Is Planet Coaster. So essentially, Nick played a lot of this year, and he said, forget theme park, forget Roller Coaster Tycoon. This is the best theme park sim that's ever been made. He said, from a pure gameplay progression standpoint, there's some room for improvement, but as far as being able to craft your dream theme park in any manner your imagination can throw at you, this can't be beaten. Couple that with a huge community that are doing quite a lot of modding and things like that. It sounds like it's a really impressive sort of management sim. And I've seen a lot of footage of it, and I've not actually played it myself, but I have seen a lot of footage of it. It does look very cool. It really does.
Well, I had a lot of love for Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Amazing, yeah.
I've played that game since I was at university, and I've picked up, I think, every iteration of it since, apart from the recent one, which, to all intents and purposes, sounds absolutely terrible. Was it Roller Coaster Tycoon World, I think, was the most recent one that came out, and was a bit of a it was a mobile free-to-play game or something, wasn't it? And then they launched it for PC, and it's just not a nice experience, I gather. But Planet Coaster obviously comes from Frontier, who were the original Roller Coaster Tycoon developers, or at least I think they did Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, I think. So they have history with the series. So Planet Coaster technically is that the spiritual successor to Roller Coaster Tycoon, and it just looks awesome. You can paint every single wall of your rides. It's just it's on my list of games to get. But again, I haven't played it, so it didn't feature on my list. But I'm sure had I done, I think it probably would have done.
Yeah, again, I think that's the same for a lot of things in here. There's a lot of games that I did play that I just thought, I'd love to put this on, but the games that I did put on my top 10 list kind of they hit me a bit harder. I think it's probably fair to say, and that's actually an unintentional segue into one that I was kind of hoping would creep in, but it didn't really get too many votes, and that was Abzu. Now, I was quite open in my review about Abzu about just what that game did and how that game hit me. I was going through a pretty crap time in general, and playing that game just gave me the perfect place to escape, and it did for me what I think an awful lot of people got from Journey.
Yeah, definitely.
It was just the ability to kind of lose yourself in a game with, quite frankly, an incredible soundtrack. And yeah, it really did. It just hit me somewhere, and it kind of helped me sort of get out of the place that I was in, which was incredibly therapeutic, and it was something that I genuinely wasn't expecting from that game. Because I saw it at E3, and I think, Gary, you saw it last year, was it?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
And at that point, we weren't necessarily thinking, well, this is going to be like a Game of the Year contender. It was like, oh, this looks really nice, nice little game to lose yourself in. But by the time that I'd finished playing it, I was just, there were times during that game when I just sat there and I thought, you know what, I genuinely just want to cry right now, because it's so beautiful. There are things that are in that game where I can just play it and I'll just let it wash over me, and that will, I can and have played that game for hours after the fact, just because it's
stunning.
It's beautiful. And I know, Gary, you put it on your list.
Yeah, number 9, I believe, something like that.
Yep.
I didn't play it from start to finish, but I played a lot with a friend, and what I played, the one thing that sort of struck me with it was just how beautiful it was and how sort of relaxing it made me feel.
Yeah.
And obviously, I know Journey has got that same sort of tagline as making you feel relaxed, and sort of just, it was such a unique sort of experience. And yeah, Abzu for me, if I had to sort of call it something, I would say it was like Journey in the ocean in some ways. Because it's just not many games out there that are like Abzu and obviously Journey. What I played of it was just very, very relaxing, and it was actually just like a complete opposite to what you normally expect with a video game. And it was great, very, very good.
Absolutely. And I think it's genuinely like it genuinely affected me in ways that I didn't think were going to be possible from a game, that you would associate that kind of stuff with. It's a fantastic experience, and if you haven't played it, I would strongly recommend doing it, because it's just beautiful. Like there's moments in that game where you're just swimming around, you're dancing around, and then all of a sudden you just think, okay, sod this, and you press X 3 times in a sequence, and you just fly up to the top of the surface of the water.
Yeah,
out you pop, and you've got a massive shoal of fish following you, and it's just there's moments in that game that are just absolutely superb. And like as I say, I think I took from that what a lot of people took from Journey. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Journey, but it didn't resonate with me in the way that it did with quite a few people. So cool. So that's Abzu. What else have we got here? We've got Andy, another one of yours actually, Recall.
Yes, Recall.
Now let's have a quick discussion about Recall, because I've recently started playing it.
You have, I think, haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm intrigued as to how it ended up on your list.
I loved it. I enjoyed it a hell of a lot. It's not the most technically stupendous game, but it's a good throwback. It's the kind of game I really like playing.
It's that kind
not
of
too long.
It's that A/B tier game, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if it was a film, it probably wouldn't be straight to DVD, but it would be the kind of thing that would probably spend a couple of nights at your local Odeon playing like one show. That you probably, a lot of people would probably rag on quite a bit and go, "Oh, that film's terrible," but it's going to build up a cult following over time. And I think Recall has the potential to build up a bit of a cult following. It's not an incredibly terrible game. It's not an incredibly amazing game, but neither is it bad in any way. It doesn't do anything particularly bad, but it is fun to play. It's got a story. It's fully voice acted. It's got some interesting ideas going on with it. It is arguably a little bit bland because the environments are quite samey. But it's got a lot going for it. I think performance-wise, it's a little bit shabby in some areas. I had it since the early days. It came out just around the time that the Xbox One S came out when I picked mine up, and it was one of the games I got with it. And certainly when it first came out, before it got heavily patched, the performance was a heck of a lot worse than it is now.
Wow, that's saying something.
To be honest with you, I don't find performance to be terrible. It's not up to like the standard of something like Uncharted or something like that, to that sort of really highly polished AAA game. But nor are we talking, PC Arkham Knight levels of deterioration in frame rates.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's shaky, but it's good, and it's got some interesting mechanics in it. The fact that your prime mode of combat is your companions rather than weapons that you physically wield as a character. So you have to sort of balance a kind of a co-op mechanic where you can only have two characters out with you at the same time, two of these robots out with you at the same time, so you've got to plan ahead. It's got quite some expansive areas of map to explore. Some of the ex-Retro developers, I believe, worked on this, and you can kind of tell there's a bit of Metroid Prime going with it. In the way that you use, for example, your D-pad to switch your weapon types, and color matching to deal bonus damage to specific enemies, and the fact that there is a lot of areas where you'll see an item high up or behind some kind of blockage and go, I'm going to have to come back to you later when I've got a new ability, aren't I? And it's that kind of thing. I mean, I'm a big sucker for like the Castlevanias and the Metroids and stuff like that, and ReCore kind of channels that. But it's also got a fairly decent storyline with it, which I think is what a lot of open world games seem to miss out on these days. Is they kind of tend to throw loads and loads of stuff to do in the world at you, but they really forget sometimes all you want is like a bit of an open world, but just guide me through a bit of a story. Let me feel like I'm influencing things around here, rather than someone desperately telling me that they're going to die if they don't get some drug money off some kingpin. And don't worry, I'm going to now spend 5 hours over the other side of the map driving taxis. Sorry, guys, see you later. Bye. Hope you're not dead by the time I come back.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it is. I'm still quite early on in the game, but there is that sort of linear, slight push of a hand to nudge you in the right direction, and I'm tentatively enjoying it so far. So
I think tentatively enjoying it is a good thing. I mean, I like I say, it's not a game that blows me away, but it is a game that I had a heck of a lot of fun with. Okay. And I can't say that for a lot of games that have come out for this generation. I think it's something that we're sadly lacking at the minute, is that mid-tier, mid-price, but still well put together title.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that has been lost in this generation, is that kind of what I'd probably call, like, in not being disparaging in any way, but like kind of the what I call a THQ game.
Yes. Yeah.
It's that kind of it's that
kind
of
it's described as AA. So it's not AAA, but it's not indie. It's kind of a AA. Yeah,
and they're like the batteries. They're the ones that everyone needs to pick up at some point.
Especially around this time of the year.
Absolutely. So, okay, moving on. We've got two games, I think, that appeared in your list, Gary, that didn't quite make it, and they were Quantum Break and Firewatch.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about Quantum Break first, because I reviewed that at the time. I gave it a 9. I stand by that. I think it's a very good game. I think it tried some interesting things. I think Remedy were very good with Alan Wake and the other the stuff they've done before. And I think the way that they implemented some of the stuff from Microsoft's like ill-fated TV focus. into a game, in the way that Quantum Break did, I think they managed to do it really well.
Yeah. The one thing that sort of, because I didn't play it straight away when it first was released. It took me it was only like a couple of months back that I actually played it. The one thing that sort of struck me with it is just how unique it is. A bit like Abzu, there's nothing else like it. I love the fact that you can use sort of all the mechanics to your advantage within the gameplay, if that makes sense. Where you obviously know what I'm talking about because you reviewed it, but some of the sort of what do they call the actual name of the sort of the powers you use? There's a word for it. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but
the abilities and stuff.
Yeah, abilities. That's the one. I just found it really, really cool. It's the TV style stuff is good, I think. It's not incredible. It's not going to blow your mind, I don't think. But
I mean, it's cheesy as fuck.
Yeah, but for a first sort of attempt, I thought they'd done really well with it. And I really like Remedy as a studio. I enjoyed Alan Wake massively when it first was released. And I just thought, why not give it a go? And I was thoroughly surprised. I really, really enjoyed it. And if you own an Xbox One, that game is going to be seriously cheap at the moment, I'd imagine.
I think I saw it for a tenner.
That's crazy. So I thought it was really good. Again, it's not going to blow your mind in some regards like the TV show stuff, but the actual mechanics and the story take away from the TV show, I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that pretty much 100%. Robin also said, that it was one of his games of the year. He said that Remedy don't make quick games or boring ones either. So Alan Wake was a long time coming, and so was Quantum Break, but they were both well worth the wait. Style and storytelling do somewhat take precedence over gameplay, but whereas Alan Wake suffered from really repetitive and bland fights, the time-bending powers on offer here make for fights more tactical and fascinating. The TV-style episodic interludes help add to the experience and flesh out the backstory rather than detract from the game itself, and it actually shows some real potential for blending gameplay and entertainment in a seamless way. It's not everyone's cup of tea and wasn't a huge commercial hit, but there's never really been anything quite like it, and I think that sums it up.
Yeah, pretty much. I couldn't put it better myself, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a very good game. It tries some things, not everything sticks, but what does stick, I think, it does it really well. So that's Quantum Break. And that said, the next one was Firewatch, which I didn't put in my list, but it was extremely close because, again, much like Abzu, that was a game that kind of hit me. Didn't expect it to.
Yeah. Great game. Really, really good game. How many sort of votes did it get? Do you know off the top of your head? Or
there were, I think there was only 2. So I think it was yourself and Nick both voted for it. But like I said, it was so close to ending up in my top 10.
I sort of, it was one of those games that I kept on sort of seeing, sort of being people talking about it, and I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. It's not surprisingly long, as you can expect, but it sort of hit me, just like the story, like the writing within Firewatch was incredible, I thought.
Absolutely.
And the voice acting as well. Obviously you've got Ali Moss's sort of art style with it, which it looks stunning. I just really enjoyed it, and it's one of those games. Once you finish it, obviously I'm not going to go into spoiler territory because there's probably people that haven't played it yet. But once you sort of finish it, I remember we talked about it, Ben. We was just like sort of trying to sort of figure out what was sort of going on. Like, is this happening? Is that part of it? You sort of question yourself with the story, and what I found with Firewatch, I thought it was brilliant the way they sort of, it makes you think about the story you've just sort of gone through. It's short, but it's where if you own any console or PC, or I think it's on every platform now.
I think it is now, yeah.
It's really, really good, and everyone needs to check it out because I personally, if it wasn't for games that I put above it, being so good, that would be higher up. I think I believe I put it as number 5 or number 6 in my list.
You put it as number 5.
Yeah, if the games above it wasn't so incredibly good, I think that would be a lot higher than that, because it is a special game in my eyes.
Absolutely, and I think again the thing that it did so well, like you mentioned, was the dialogue, like the conversations in the game. Everything was so natural and everything was so well scripted that at times it just felt like it. I wasn't playing a game with dialogue options. It was like that was essentially how I would react to that question, or how the person that I've just asked that question of would react to me, It said a lot because, again, like, it was an interesting one when I got to the end of that game because, there are some mild spoilers here, but, like, when you get to the point where all of a sudden, where you go, the person that you're expecting to be there suddenly isn't there, and then that's it, they're no longer going to be a part of your life anymore.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments where I was sat there thinking, I've had this, like, I've had experiences with friends that over a relatively short amount of time, or maybe in the case of some of it, like over a period of years, where you develop this intense bond and this really close and intense friendship, and then it's just gone.
Yeah, that's so true.
There's no real explanation for it. There's no rhyme or reason for it. You've not pissed you've not pissed each other off. You've just sort of grown apart, and it does that in such a way that it's kind of like it's life in a nutshell, really, and it's so well done. Plus, like, one of the options is that you can call the turtle that you find Turt Reynolds, which I think is absolutely fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, okay, right, we are moving on to, like, I think the last couple now. One of the more controversial ones, which isn't going to be in our top 10, is Overwatch. And that is essentially because not that many people have played it.
In our...
Yeah. I mean, I've
Battleborn for reals, yo.
Yeah. Get out of here.
No, I'm joking on that one.
I played Overwatch during the free weekend a while ago, and I think it's one of those games that I would absolutely love to get into, but I don't have the time. And I think it much like a lot of first-person shooters, it's one of those games where, if you don't have the time, or if you don't start sinking the time into it, then you're going to get left behind with a lot of it. So, yeah, it's a strange one. So Charles actually put this as his number one, and this is the only game that somebody put as their number one game of the year that didn't make the top 10. So it's it's a bit gutting, but ultimately, he said, he really enjoyed having a game that isn't all about getting the best KD ratio, but when you get recognition for keeping your teammates alive as a healer, or blocking a weapons grade amount of damage with a hefty shield, the feels are just as good. So he said he's also enjoyed playing with friends on the PC, but the PC community for Overwatch certainly sounds like it's very strong, and it sounds like it is a fantastic game.
Well,
I've obviously
a lot of positive write-up all the time. I mean, you don't see anything bad about it. I think there's some people take issue with the way that it's monetized within the game. I think there are hacks to help you progress quicker, and I know it's all very cosmetic-y stuff, but I think there is kind of a push to try and, within that kind of community, I mean, you kind of look at the Team Fortressy kind of community, and there is that kind of push. The better your cosmetics, the better you are at the game. So, it's a questionable area of the sort of the recent boom of first-person shooters, really.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, like, ultimately, the fact that Overwatch hasn't appeared in our top 10 does not make it a bad game, because I know that's not the case. I've played it a bit, and what I have played of it I really enjoyed, but ultimately I haven't played enough of it to form a decent opinion, and that's why it didn't feature in my list. And I think that's probably the case with a lot of folks that that put the votes through. So Overwatch, unfortunately, is not in our top 10, but it does come with that massive caveat that not really any of us have played it. So, also not making it, we've got two more now, which Dishonored 2 and Deus Ex Mankind Divided, both of them kind of first-person stealthy games. I know that Deus Ex got a decent review when we put it up, and Dishonored 2... I think you were a bit disappointed with it, Andy. But
I was disappointed, yeah, for various reasons. It's not a bad game, and I stressed this in my review. I gave it a 7.5. It's not a bad game.
No.
It's just more Dishonored. And from a game series like that, I think you want to see something a bit more fresh.
Yeah.
For a second run around, and I think
Robin mentioned this. Robin mentioned this in his nomination for it. He said that the first Dishonored offered gamers a massive amount of choice and flexibility in how they could tackle every part of the game. And whilst Dishonored 2 somehow feels more linear, each set piece and assassination still feels like an opportunity to experiment and test yourself.
Yeah.
And he says a welcome return to the steampunk setting of the first title, but Arcane will probably need to develop the idea somewhat more if a third entry is planned. Yeah. Which I think is pretty much what you said in the review. You know, it's not a bad game by any stretch, but it's that there are some things that need tweaking before it all. I think it all goes.
I think my biggest criticism was it wasn't adventurous enough. It didn't do anything clever with the 2-character mechanic. It was literally just at the beginning of the game. You choose the character who you're going to experience the story with, and it's identical regardless of who you choose. And for me, who actually likes the story-driven aspects of the games, that kind of put me on a back footing straight away. Because I kind of thought, if I pick Emily over Corvo, not only is it going to play differently, but I'm going to experience a different angle on the story, maybe see some elements of it from a different point of view. But no, there wasn't any of that. There wasn't any of the, one character has certain morals, another character has another set of morals, and there could have been that really interesting sort of 2-character interplay like you get with Jacob and Evie in Assassin's Creed. But instead of that, it is just the same story with largely the same dialogue, except for a couple of different choices of dialogue, because obviously you're different characters. Which to me just seemed like, I think, a missed opportunity, and I think kind of really left me feeling like it was not as adventurous as it could have been, and not as interesting as it could have been.
Okay.
But still not a bad game.
No, that's fair enough. And yeah, like I said, the final one that got a few votes that didn't make the list was Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. Have either of you guys played through any of Deus Ex yet?
I haven't yet. But it's one of those games that likely would have made my list had I played it.
Again, like I'm very much the same. I've got it sat on my shelf ready to play, but I haven't had the time to get around it, and it's a weird one. Like I really enjoy stealth games, I really enjoy first person games, but I can't seem to get into Deus Ex or Dishonored. It's really weird. Like I tried so much with Human Revolution, but I just couldn't get my head around it. But by all accounts, it is a very good game that's done quite a lot in terms of a sequel. So they're the games that haven't quite made our top 10. There are obviously quite a few more, including games like Super Hot as well. Super Hot, it's a fantastic game. And the recent addition of the VR mode, the VR sort of game, looks a hell of a lot of fun as well. Like Super Hot did a lot for me at the start of the year, and it's quite shocking to think that came out at the beginning of the year, because it feels like it's been out for ages.
Yeah.
And just quickly scanning over here, the obvious other one for me is Job Simulator as well.
Did Job Simulator not actually make the top 10?
It didn't make the top 10, no, but it did get our best
VR.
VR.
You need to fire a few people after that. Actually, I think that's a sackable offence, that is.
I mean, not everyone's got VR, so we'll let it off. Job Simulator obviously is fantastic fun, and it's one of our best VR games. So that's going to do it for this chat. Join us again tomorrow for our beginning of the top 10 of the game of the year.
So that was some of the games that didn't quite make the cut. So, you might be disappointed not to see some of your favourites included in there. I know I'm certainly a bit gutted that some of my favourites didn't quite make the cut. But, I have niche tastes.
Because No Man's Sky was shit. Shows your face.
Join us tomorrow, where we will be doing our top 10 countdown and finding out what did make the cut. games that did make the cut. Some quality titles in there, though.
You knows it. Absolutely.
I knows it. It's going to be good. Come back then and join us.
Bye-bye.